What's going on with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof? Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Hutch, and thanks so much for joining me on this journey through the world of whiskey. So, all the way over here, we've got the newest batch of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, batch A125. I've got that poured up, and I want to dig into reviewing it and talking about it a little bit. But I'm pretty late to the party. It didn't hit my area until about a month later than most people. So instead of doing a standard review, I figured why not use it as a little bit of an excuse to talk about the entire Elijah Craig line, especially post the loss of the age statement. I want to talk about what's going on with the line of whiskey that we've all come to know and love. Has it lost its value? Are we all suckers waiting for another C923 that's just simply never going to come? Let's talk about it in the context of reviewing A125. I do want this video to spark some conversation, so please put down in the comments below how you now see Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, especially post the loss of that 12-year age statement, and what are your thoughts? Is it still worth it? Have you stopped buying it? Are you limiting yourself to only one batch a year because you're not sure what the value will be? That is totally fair, and I want to hear what you guys think. So basically the story goes, if you haven't been following along or if you just want a little recap, back in 2023 with batch B523, we got the news that Elijah Craig Barrel Proof's 12-year-old age statement was going away. So this first release without that 12-year-old age statement was 124.2 proof, sort of middle of the pack, maybe a little bit low for the series, but 11 years and 5 months old. So we're all thinking, okay, I mean, it's not 12 years old, but it's pretty close. I think most people thought this was a decent batch, nothing special, but sometimes you get those with Elijah Craig, and you know, it's $75 MSRP, so still 11 years, 5 months. Then we got this absolute monster, C923, which won my Whiskey of the Year in 2023. It's 133 proof. A lot of people love to see their Elijah Craigs get up there in proof. 13 years and 7 months old. I mean, just an absolute monster of a bottle that I think a lot of people were like, well, if we have to sacrifice a few months off of B523 to get an extra year and 7 months on C923 and one of the best bottles we've ever owned, sure, we'll make that trade-off. So that was 2023, right? Ends on an absolutely killer note. You come into 2024 excited to see what happens. Maybe we'll get some younger stuff, but maybe we'll also get some older stuff. And that's where things start to get maybe a little bit questionable. So we've got A124 here, 119 proof, 10 years, 9 months old. So we went down in age. Look, it's still almost 11 years old. Still, that's pretty dang mature whiskey, but pretty low proof. I do think this was kind of a sleeper bottle that ended up making it into my Whiskey of the Year bracket and beating out the rest from 2024, even though I had kind of counted it out. So interesting flavors, but kind of off profile. Then you had the B524 proof point, 130.6. Hey, that's pretty nice. But still age 11 years, 2 months. A little bit disappointing that it was that low. I do think this one's a very spicy profile. Maybe if it had been in the barrel a little bit longer, it could have rounded out a little bit. Who knows? Then you got C924. To me, this was a relatively unremarkable batch. 129 proof, right in the middle there. 11 years on the dot. Nothing super special. It's more like one of those private store picks that you can get pretty much anywhere. A little bit older than some of those, but nothing to write home about. Now we've got A125, and everybody's coming into 2025 like, well, what's going to happen? Maybe we're going to kick off the year with a bang and we'll get another C923. It'll be 14 years old. And we get 118.2 proof, tying the lowest ever proof for the series, in 10 years, 7 months old. Does that mean it's going to be bad? No, by no means does it mean it's going to be bad. Sometimes a little bit younger, a little bit lower proof, allows for a lot more well-rounded experience. But it does raise the question of what's going on with the series. I think C923, the more I think about it and the more I consider what's right in front of me today, it's hard not to feel like they kind of suckered us in, gave us one really high age, high proof, incredible batch and said, now you're going to keep coming back and hope that the next one is going to be like that. And it just hasn't been that way for 4 straight releases, which is a little frustrating. In any case, let's dive into A125 a little bit and see what we think on the nose, palate, and finish here. So nose-wise, it's a little brighter than usual. There's like a peanut power to it, peanut brittle, cherry, brighter cherry and peanut, caramel, and some cinnamon. Let's go in on the palate. Cheers. I mean, that is really good whiskey. It's super peanut brittle, peanut butter, leaning hard into that peanut, caramel, oak, a little bit of cinnamon spice. But the star of that show is like this gooey peanut butter and caramel core to it. The proof is not super high. I do think the spice lingers a little bit, which is nice with that cinnamon. But you feel like you're drinking something more middle of the road proof that is really leaning into its nutty nature. What I would compare this to is like if Booker's wasn't so hot, I'd put it more in this category of like nice, smooth nuttiness. The one batch of Booker's this reminds me of is the Kentucky Tea batch, which was a phenomenal batch of Booker's and had that nutty profile, but not quite as hot as usual for Booker's. All right, let's go in for one more sip. Cheers. Yeah, nice. So I got a little bit more of a brighter cherry sort of essence to that one with some vanilla. But again, it comes back down to this oak, peanut butter kind of thing, caramel, and cinnamon. So very good whiskey. Is it worth that $75 MSRP? I actually got this for $69 at Costco. Yes, it is still worth that. I think every whiskey in front of me today is still worth that price. But when you think about the potential of Elijah Craig barrel proof with something like a C923 or even an A123, which was the last one we got with that 12-year-old age statement, I think that was a phenomenal batch. So much more oak and maturity to that one that it reminds you of the C923. It does get a little frustrating. I think we feel like we've been given this promise that every once in a while Elijah Craig barrel proof will come out with one that is just the same level as things like Russell's Reserve 15 or at least close to that, and we'll be able to get it for $75. And I think that is what keeps us on the line. Something like a C923 still potentially coming out. Because the truth is, A125 is good whiskey. For $75, it is worth it. It's definitely living up to what you have to pay for it and the amount of work you'd have to do to put in to get a batch like this, which may honestly sit on shelves a little bit because people are no longer sure about the series. So, definitely still worth it. But what I'm struggling with is this seeming like false promise we've been given, because now that's 1, 2, 3, 4 releases in a row where it's just not close to some of the higher standard that we're used to. Maybe B525 or the third release of the year in around September, October, will get us back to those heights. I hope it will. I'm a little skeptical that it will because of the more amount of private barrel picks that people are doing with Elijah Craig, the amount of aged whiskey that's going toward their more limited stuff at Heaven Hill. It's just hard to say. So again, I want to hear in the comments, what do you guys think of what's going on with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof? Is it still one of the best values in whiskey, or has it started to taper off? What I'm feeling like is beyond 2025, even though I have a YouTube channel, I may start limiting myself to one batch a year if it continues to be at this general level of quality, and just wait to hear what the best one of the year is. If it goes back to the occasional C923 or A123 or really, really good batches that just sort of exceed expectations, I'll continue to get every batch and start to compare them and break them down for you. But if it stays more in this like justifies its price but doesn't go above and beyond kind of level, I might tailor back to just getting one batch a year. Again, I really do want to know what you guys think. I think this is more about starting a conversation. A125, solid, enjoyable, not gonna burn your tongue, and it's got a little bit lower proof point, so that's definitely a point in its favor in terms of the roundedness, but it isn't truly special, and so maybe the days of that are over for Elijah Craig. We'll have to see. All right, if you've made a comment and started talking, great. If you haven't liked the video, please do that. And then while you're at it, if you haven't subscribed to the Bourbon Hutch, please join us for the rest of 2025 and beyond. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers in 2025, and then we'll do a pretty big giveaway at the end of the year if we do reach that goal. Till I see you guys again for another video, all I can say is keep drinking good whiskey and cheers.